Sai Ram, dear brothers and sisters, welcome to the next episode of our Regional 10 Inspiration channel. And before starting, Happy New Year to all of you. And welcome to the new year with very inspiration stories from one of our center presidents and family. So basically, if you look at it in the last few quarters, we are going by a specific theme for every quarter. And you remember that last quarter, we heard the stories and experiences of our SSC teachers and parents. And this quarter, which happens to the first quarter of the new year, Jan, Feb, and March, we would be listening to the stories from our regional devotees. It's for this current month, January. Our guest speakers are Norma and Jesus Bustillo from El Paso. Norma happens to be the center president there and ably supported by Jesus for the center and other activities. In the next month, February, our guest speakers are Jack and Sally from Dallas. Third month, March, we are going with our guest speakers as Prue and Michael Kaufman from New Orleans. Prue happens to be the center president of New Orleans Center. And coming back to our current guest speakers, Norma and Jesus, I would like to go with a small introduction about them. Norma Bustillo is president of the Sai Baba Center of El Paso. Professionally, Norma is an insurance agent and a co-owner of Plans for Life Insurance Group. Norma and her brother were raised by their mother, after their father died of cancer when Norma was only 6 years of age. Schooling became a challenge and she took her GED to finish high school early. Swami came to her when she was just 16 years old and a school dropout. Swami later saved her daughter's life when she was just around 3 years of age. This led her to Swami's teachings. Norma has been reading and practicing Swami's teachings since her teens. However, it was not until Norma received literature about his life through a book written by Peggy Mason and Ron Lang, Embodiment of Love, that helped her recognize who Satya Sai Baba was. She knew then that Sai Baba was the one she had been waiting for lifetimes. Coming to Jesus Bustillo, he is the president and CEO of Plans for Life Insurance Group. He faced many challenges growing up and met Baba after meeting Norma and knew him to be genuine by his works. Jesus still had to adjust his identification of self, as at that point in his life, the idea of God was outside of him. His reawakening experience was powerful and a defining moment for Jesus. Let's listen to the story of both of them. And I would request Jesus and Norma to continue your stories. Saira.
Saira.
I guess I'll start because I was the first one that came to Swami. I initially, when Swami came to me, I was already in the path of searching. I was going to meditation classes. There was a particular, sorry, my dog. There was a particular person that I would go to her house and she would teach us meditation. And in that location is where I first heard of Satya Sai Baba. I was only 16 years old at that time. And what they had told me was that Sai Baba grants you whatever you want, especially when it came to children. They said a whole bunch of stuff, but that's the one thing that just stayed with me. So at 16, I walked out of there and I asked that I would win the lottery. And I didn't win it. Obviously, I didn't. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. So I didn't believe them, right? Because I wasn't granted the lottery. So I continued, searching. I learned through Ram Dass. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him. I came across his writings, and also Elizabeth Clare Prophet, the Advanced Masters. Then when I had my daughter, because I was a single mother for a while, I had a very difficult childhood growing up without my father. It was just my mom, my brother, and myself. And my mother had a lot of responsibility when my father passed away. She didn't know how to drive. She didn't know how to work. She only went to the 3rd grade. She migrated from Mexico to the States. So she had to basically teach herself how to do many things after my father passed away, including sewing her own clothes. Like, she would sew our clothes because we were so poor. She never took assistance from the government because she didn't believe in that. But she did have Social Security, widow benefits. So that's how we were sustaining ourselves when we were little. So again, through all that, it was very trialsome. I quit my school when I was in the 9th grade because I didn't have any support at home when it came to education. My mom didn't understand that process. And I got my GED early because I didn't like what I was being taught at school. It didn't feel right. I didn't understand how I was going to use that. I always had this inkling that there was more to life than what I was being told. I came across a book in a library that was from Prabhupada, the Hare Krishnas. And in there, I found a lot of what I knew what was to be true. It was the first time I had ever seen it. And so then from there, I think that's where I was, finding my path. So when I became pregnant, I actually had a dream. God has always been with me, showing me signs. I had a dream, and in my dream, he told me that I needed to take care of myself because I was pregnant, and I didn't understand what that meant. So I went to get tested, and sure enough, I was. And so I decided to keep my baby, but it was really hard during that period of time because you can only imagine the backlash that I got from our community and family. And my dad's part of the family stopped talking to me, like they weren't really there because I was a single mother. And I knew I was going to have it really difficult keeping my baby, but it was what I needed to do because that's what I was told, that I needed to take care of myself, and I was going to follow that. So anyway, at some point, my daughter was 2.5 years of age. She got really sick. I took her to the hospital, and they told me it was only the flu. I took her again, 3 days later. She wasn't eating. She couldn't use the restroom, right? Her belly was becoming swollen. Second time I took her, they told me the same thing. The same doctor, ER. She doesn't have anything. It's just the flu. Give her Tylenol. So I took her home, and I remember that I thought, no, this is serious. This is more than what they're telling me. And we decided to take her to Mexico, across the border here from El Paso. We have Juarez. So we took her over there, and the doctor there said to me, oh my God, this little girl has appendicitis. You need to take her quickly to the doctor, to the ER, and ask for Dr. Canales. So I went to the ER again. Same doctor was there. He was smirking because I was there again, but this time I asked for Dr. Canales. And Dr. Canales saw her, and then he said, she needs to go into surgery immediately or she's going to die. So they took her in, and it was a battle for her life for many days. And I was 18 at the time. I had no idea what was going on because I was so young. I don't even remember the name of her condition. That's how young and naive I was. But all I remember is that they told me that her big intestine had inverted and all of her fecal matter was staying inside. And so she was being poisoned from within. They had to put tubes inside her nose to, what is it called, to take everything out. And charcoal also. They were doing that as well. And she was tied up from her hands. She couldn't move because they had to tie her up and keep her in a sleeping state, sedated, because she would like take off the tubes out of her nose. And the only thing feeding her were the IVs. So after almost a month like this, she wasn't eating. It was only the IV. They had to put the IV in one of her veins. It was very weak. They would try to put the IV and a little bubble would, the veins would turn into little bubbles because she was dehydrating. And that's when I realized, that's when it hit me. Oh my God, if they can't do this, she's gonna die, because how are they gonna feed her? And I remember they asked me to please step out of the room while they were doing that procedure. And I praying to Jesus, praying to Mother Mary, praying to Mother God, praying to all the saints, being that I was raised Catholic, and no answer. I've always had an answer. I wasn't getting an answer. And I've always asked Swami, like, Swami, why did you make this story be my story? Because every time I go there, it hurts really bad, because you remember. But anyway, so I was waiting in the room. They brought her back to me, because where they were putting the IV was a different location within the hospital. Brought her back to her room, and she was in the crib. And I remember that I was just soothing her and looking at her, and that's when I broke down, and I said, I remembered him. I remember what they had told me. He will do whatever, especially when it came to children, right? And so I remembered that, and I said, what is your name? I couldn't remember his name. Oh my God, what is your name? And as a Catholic, first impressions you get of Satya Sai Baba, most Catholics, is that he's some kind of evil force, because that's what they tell you, right? Anything outside of the Catholic Church is evil. So I remember I was like, I don't care who you are, what you are. I don't care if even, and I'm going to say the word, I even said this. I said, I don't care if you're Satan. I really don't care. Like, I was that, please. And all I remember was Baba. I said, Baba, please help me. Help my daughter. Please, please, please. I was begging. Next thing I know, my daughter, I was looking down at her. She has these huge eyes. She has really big eyes. And her eyes were looking straight forward. I was like at the side of her, but her eyes were looking straight forward. And I saw light inside her eyes. And in Spanish, she said, Mira, mami. That means, look, mom, look, mommy. And that didn't surprise me, because I've always seen things, spirits, I have that where people can hear the other side. So that didn't cause me any concern. Then she turned to look at me directly. And when she looked at my eyes and I looked at her, Sai Baba was inside her pupils. And he had that form where he has his hands in front of like his body like this. He was right there. And I remember I started to shake. I was holding on to the rails of the crib, and I started shaking and shaking. And I mean, uncontrollable shaking. And I remember I turned around to the side. That's my cat. Sorry, guys. I have a lot of animals. I turned around to the side because the door was a little bit ajar, open. And I was a little embarrassed because I was thinking, oh my God, they're going to come in and they're going to think I'm crazy, because here I'm shaking uncontrollably. And I remember that I lost track of time. I don't know what happened. Like, after that, that's the last thought I had. Next thing I know, the nurse comes in and she's right next to me. And I turned around and I looked at her, and I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything. I remember I went and I sat down on the little lazy boy armchair style sofa that they had there for me. And I sat there and I couldn't get my thoughts back right away to even question what had happened. It took a while. I don't even remember what happened, honestly, like how I fell asleep or what happened at that moment. All I remember is the following day, and I called my friend Gerald, who was the one who had introduced me to Linda, the lady where I would go meditate. And I called him and I told him what had happened. And so we had a conversation about it. But then, you know, I was thinking, okay, we're going to see, she's going to be able to eat today. The miracle happened, right? Because this happened. So I remember the doctor came in, Dr. Canales and Dr. Castillo's the surgeon. And then I was waiting for them to say she can eat. And then they said, no, she can't eat yet. And I was confused because how is it that this miracle was supposed to happen immediately, right? It didn't happen that way. So fine. Second day, same thing. Can't. One of them said she can have eyes. And the other one said no. And so they didn't do that. It wasn't until like the third day that they finally agreed that she could have eyes. So then I knew we were getting a step closer. And so like this, it kept happening. Like, you know, now she can do this, now she can do that. Within, I want to say almost 2 weeks, maybe close to 2 weeks, my daughter was walking. She was talking to everybody, and because she's very talkative still now. So she was walking, little short, small, little cute baby with huge eyes and her little robe and her little Ivy walking and talking to everybody. And everybody was like looking at her like, oh, wow, look, you know. And anyway, the last 2 days before she was going to be discharged, the doctor comes in, Dr. Castillo, and I hear the nurses say, oh, it's a miracle, it's a miracle, it's a miracle. And I'm sitting there not knowing who or what they were talking about, because there was another patient next to me, another little kid, but the kid didn't have an issue like mine. It was something minimal compared to what I was going through. So they come in, it's a miracle, it's a miracle. And then it hit me. Again, I'm young, naive, nobody's talking to me because I'm young. I realized, oh my goodness, they're saying my daughter is the miracle because they didn't expect her to live, but they didn't know how to tell me. So then that's when I said, I need to know who this man is. I need to know who this Baba is. So I said I needed to go and see, you know, go to the meeting again. So I went, you know, I don't remember if it was like 2 days later. It was like, you know, when they were supposed to meet. So I went, I told them what happened. I said, oh, this happened. And one of the ladies, very sweet, a beautiful group. I've never seen them again since then. But she said, so now you believe? I said, no, no, I don't believe. I need more. This is not enough. And they were a little confused. I said, what else do you need? I'm like, I need more. So they gave me his literature. They gave me his books. And I mean, I started reading. It was Peggy Mason's book, Embodiment of Love, that really hit me. And as I was reading, it was kind of like this recognition beyond this life, that I knew I was waiting for him. I just knew. And since then, he's had my heart. And when I feel like this, it's not because I want to cry of sadness. It's because it's this amazing joy inside of me that I found my guru, that I feel so blessed that he actually answered my prayers from lifetimes. There's been a lot of challenges that I've gone through, and I've asked Swami, why? Why so many challenges? Why me being born this way? And he said to me, that's another thing. Like, I've never had to see Swami in physical form. Although I don't understand the idea of a physical form, because that's not who we really are, right? So it's that he wherever it is, like at any moment, that communication happens because of this love, this intense love that we have within ourselves. And when we tap into that love, of course, God is going to answer. No matter where you're at, this love is what connects us. So when Swami says heart to heart, it's the love. And so I asked him, I said, why? And he said that I was going to be the story of the single mother with the problems that we've had, that are going to help people see and understand that you don't have to see a person like Swami to be able to connect to God. That it happens when you reach out to God. At any point, he comes to you. It's not about exterior appearances, but rather internal connection. And no matter what you will have done in your life, whatever that thing may be, ugly or not, and especially if it's ugly, and some people feel so much guilt that they think that God will never answer. No, it doesn't matter. God loves us, and God is us. So the moment we open up that channel, we will get an answer. And so my life, I mean, I'm just giving you a small little story of mine. Jesus will share his. There are many, many stories of, being a single mother, not following the proper form of what one would consider morality, I guess. I don't know. In my case, that's the case, right? Doesn't matter. God is with me. I didn't commit a sin. There are people who might consider what I went through in religious groups, not so much spiritual, but religious groups, consider it immoral. And maybe God can't be there for me. But it's quite the contrary. It's when we go through the hardest parts, the hardest challenges, that's when God actually comes in. It's like when Jesus, he was going to the murderers, he was going to, the people that needed him the most. That's who he was choosing. He wasn't going to those that were walking the straight and narrow. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll have Jesus share his, and then I would like to share what recently happened to me with cancer if we have some time, because I wanted to share with you all where Swami led me. So I'll give the floor to Jesus so you can share.
Well, hello, everyone. And I don't believe my story is quite as miraculous as my wife's, though in very much the same way had the profound impact on me that I knew at that moment when I went through this experience that I was loved. And it was a moment of clarity that I'll come to in just a moment when I went through this experience. But this was already years after having started reading and learning about Baba. And I think at that point we had gone to a camp or two. Yeah. You were already doing the center, weren't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were at 40. It was 2015. I think we were at 4315 one time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I was raised Catholic, and I was quite the sinner, not like Norma. I was I was the product of a home that had its own set of challenges with different kinds of abuse and different things like that a lot of people go through, I'm sure, and in their own way, mental, physical, emotional, and so as I grew up, all of that stuff started coming out when I was in my teenage years. And so all the things that you can think of that a teenager could do to hurt themselves, pretty much, in acts of rebellion, is the kinds of things that I was doing. And I stopped just short of getting sent away. When Norma and I met, I was 17. And Ariana had already been born, our daughter. and she'd already gone through this experience that she was just explaining about. And so, you know, we had a very spiritual coming together very soon after we met.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience that we had was God driven. It was driven by our connection to Source, and you know, there was prayer involved, and we just had an outside of the body experience where we found ourselves in that space that we would call a glimpse of universal consciousness. It was a space and time where there was no time. It was all dark, though it wasn't an absence of light that was making it dark. It was just that there was no bodies, and it was just consciousness. And
we prayed to Sai Baba.
We prayed. And it wasn't so much that I was believing in Baba. It was just I was believing in the moment, and our connection at that moment was just very, very special to me. And at that point in my life, I was very young, but I had grown up with a lot of emotional challenges, just to put it plainly. So when we went through that experience and came down and registered in our mind space, in our mental here on earth space, that had just happened, we literally opened our eyes and said, did you just go? And she's like, that, and we were finishing each other's sentences as we were remembering that. And a second later, I was saying, we'll only know if it's real if it happens. And as I was saying again, we went back.
We went back together.
It was just a very life-changing experience. Though that was really more of a cosmic, outside of my, what was that? I've never experienced anything like that before, where I can appreciate it mentally. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what had happened. I just knew that there was now something else I had to figure out in my life and come to terms with and understand and learn about. That's all I understood at that moment, and this was something new. So from that moment to a few years later, all sorts of things happened, as with everybody else in life, but we had already gone through some ups and downs, Norma and I, just in our personal lives and in the business. And we were at one of our offices that we had for business, and it was, I think it was New Year's Eve, or it was we were doing a Baba event. I don't remember what it was that we were doing, but we were doing a Baba event, and we were watching a video. And at that point, I had stopped smoking. I had stopped drinking. I hadn't done anything that would have had me outside of my mind in a artificial way. So we were watching a video, and I remember thinking to myself as I was watching this video, and it was a darshan video. It was just one of the standard Baba walking through Prasanthi Nilayam, doing darshan just through the hall, through the big hall. And I remember asking myself, how do people see that guy as God? And I kept going through this in my head. And at that moment in time, and I still don't see. And the challenge that I had, I think, early on in the very beginning, was seeing and understanding this concept outside of oneself. And the mind will always see a reflection of itself. It's just something that's just part of human nature. It's very, I don't know. I don't know how it is that the mind can possibly see an image of itself or our human selves outside of our human bodies. It's just a very, very challenging thing to do mentally. And I've learned and read that is part of human nature. So it was a hard thing for me to grasp the idea that God was, as an abstract concept, was just energy or something out there in the universe that was a force, that was a source of, power, energy, unlimited, etc. That was hard for me to conceive of, because in my upbringing it was always Jesus and then the Holy Spirit, and it was a very literal and a very analogous and very gross understanding. It was all very physical, and that was just the way I was taught. So to go from that to seeing Baba, I didn't see Baba as God, and I still don't see Baba's image as God. I never made that connection in my head. I see what Baba's works here on earth as godly, and I see and I respect the man that he was while he was here, because the works that he did, I don't know of any man that would have done them. It was just in and of themselves to care for and to be there for and to help all those that he helped, just with the water projects, just, I mean, all the different things that were done along the way and along the years. Just at a human, social level, not even talking about the spiritual level, just at a human suffering level. You know, to me, to have someone that came from nothing, from a village, and do what Baba was able to do is nothing short of miraculous. And I do believe miracles are all over the place. And I do believe that we get to a point in our lives sometimes when we feel so beat up that it's hard to see the miracles, because you see the negativity. And that's where I was at in my life when all of that was happening. So I would walk into a room, just to give you an idea, and I was the kind of guy that the room would brighten when I left. Norma would be the person that would brighten the room when she came in. I was the kind of guy that would brighten the room when I left, because I was very negative and I was just still very hurt from my upbringing. And so anyways, in this event, many years later, I don't know, about 2010 maybe. No, yeah, about 2010, about 10 years ago. I was already on a spiritual quest. I was already on a spiritual journey. That wasn't in question, but I still hadn't had another cosmic connection the way I had that one time when Norma and I first gotten together. And what happened, as we were watching this video and I was asking that question, how can people see this guy as God? It's just a guy. He's walking through a crowd of people. He did some amazing things. You know, thank you, Baba, for all that you did. You know, I was there. And then I was transported in my mind as I was watching this video, and I went into a kind of a meditative state. And I lost track of time, but I was in a place where I was seeing myself being accepted for all that had happened in my life and all that I had done and all the people that I had hurt, as still someone that was worthy of love and that was going to be fine. And a weight that is to the point of making your person feel heavy from your shoulders down was lifted off of me. Physically, I felt a veil be removed. And I don't know if it was one of my chakras opening or if it was, you know, I don't know what that was. I just know that at that moment, I had gotten to a different place of acceptance. And to me, that was another miracle that just helped to affirm that I was not just asking the right questions, but that I was on the right path. And to me, that path was and is love. And inward, and helping to find those connections between the people that are in your life and where you are and where you need to go and why they're there, you know, and putting all that into context through love and not through hurt. And it's hard to do that if you haven't put your hurt into context. So, you know, in my experience, part of my growth and part of my learning has been having that hurt become part of my power and helping me grow from that. So, and back to Norma.
So I guess if there's a little bit of time left. How much time do we have?
You have another 20 to 25 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not supposed to interrupt, but actually I'm really moved with your experiences. I'm not supposed to interrupt, but still I want to say a few things.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't seen Swami physically, but you haven't heard of him. But the kind of transformation actually, or the kind of love he brought in you by connecting to yourself is phenomenal. I mean, that is an inspiration for me actually. You haven't seen, but you touched by his love, and that has actually softened your heart. Because when you're talking about Swami, about your experiences, your voice is changing and your eyes are moist. So that is the love. That is heart to heart connection. I'm amazed and thrilled. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So I'll start with this. My daughter, she was a Baba devotee for a long time. And then when Swami passed away, she was one of the devotees that fell off because, some people were saying that Sai Baba said he was going to die when he was 96 or, that age. And then she started saying, Mom, how can you believe him? He lied because he didn't keep that promise. And I've always said, and still say, well, he didn't say he was going to die at that age. He said he was going to be in that body. To believe it. So we don't know what that means, right? And that's how it is with the mystery with Swami. But I can't deny all the miracles that we've experienced. Some incredible miracles. There was one where I was Googling on my phone for a location for Starbucks. And it said, you are here, and Starbucks would be over here, right? Well, what I received was, you are at Karnataka, India, and you are at your location, which was at that time in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I knew enough to know that Karnataka was Whitefield, and that Swami had an ashram there. And I had just finished praying to Swami. It wasn't a Sunday. I wasn't doing the events, the study group or anything, because I was at a business event. I was feeling guilty. So I was talking to Swami and I was like, oh my God, I'm not over there doing what I need to do. And so then this happened. And it was my confirmation. Like it had latitude and longitude numbers next to it. My daughter saw it. He saw it. Valerie, one of our members, saw it. And then my daughter said, hey, do you think those are latitude, longitude numbers? I said, oh my God, maybe they are. So when we get back home from our trip, I Googled, and sure enough, it led me straight to the what used to be Sai Baba's hospital in Whitefield, right? But it was the women's hospital. So this was a question for me for a long time, like, why me? Why did I get these latitude, longitude, latitude numbers? What was he trying to tell me? And I thought he wanted me to work with medicine, or maybe I didn't understand then. Then I get sick 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. I had gone to India. When I went to India, Swami, again, hearing him communicate with me, he said to me that the trip was for my son, because my son needed to see Sai Baba's works. That's what he said. I said, okay. So I was following what my son wanted to do. My heart, I wanted to be in the ashram and just stay there. My son wanted to be outside of the ashram and be in the hotel. So I was following what that needed to be.
And I was protecting everybody.
And so I'm in the hotel, and Swami came to me and he said to me, because I was always saying, oh, I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to leave. Like, take me, take me. So he comes to me and he says, are you ready to go? And I said, no, because I felt that feeling of death, which is very different from anything, like you just know. And then he said to me that if I was ready, he was ready to take me. And he allowed me to see something that I had not seen before. he showed me that all of us, every single one here on earth, loves to be here. We love to play. We love to create. And it isn't until that point where we are between life and death that we recognize that. It's our choice. He was literally letting me know, it's like, you're here because you want to be here. You like it here. You love the creating part of it's not real misery. Nothing that we go through is real. It's an illusion, right? In terms of what's real, God is the only thing that's real. And so everything that we create, we're manifesting through the connection we have with ourselves, which is God. So he showed me this, and I then realized, oh my God, I'm not ready to leave because I have attachments. I still like to create. So I'm not ready to go. And then I said, no, I'm not ready to go. And then he told me that, something that we're working on, a project, he said, you don't want to die before this project is incomplete. And I said, you're right, because I'll be attached to it. So anyway, I get back to the States and I got really sick. I went to the hospital, and then they told me that it was a gallbladder problem. And so I tried to fix that gallbladder problem, but it wasn't going away. And then eventually I went ahead and had the gallbladder removed. When they went in there, the gallbladder, there was no issue with it. There was nothing wrong with it. And then that's when they found the cancer. They found some tumors. They told me, we found something, we need to look at it a little further. They call me back and they tell me, oh my God, it is cancer, and it's the size of a softball, a tumor size of the softball. I was in shock. I didn't understand why this was happening. And so I remember I was asking Swami, why is this happening? And I didn't know what to do. At that point, I was like trying to do what the doctor was telling me to do. Surgery, I asked Swami, and yes, surgery has to be done. Okay, so did the surgery. But then he said, the doctor said, do chemotherapy. And I'm like, oh my God, that just didn't feel right. But this is, I think, where Swami was testing, like the test, not that he was testing me, but like letting me see where my lack of connection was. When the fear came in, I was not connected to hearing it clearly, because I was thinking I was going to die. All my family who has gone through cancer has died. Okay, they've gone through chemo, and every single one has died. So I'm over here thinking, this is the point where I'm going to die unless Swami saves me, right? He's the only one that can rescue me. But I'm here trying to get an answer as to what to do. And I'm thinking he wants me to follow my doctor's orders, because that's what Swami has said many times. Follow your doctor's orders, take your aspirin. If he says take it, medicine, whatever, you just follow, right? That's the physical literature that we've received. So I'm thinking, I have to be a good devotee. I have to do the right thing. I'm going to follow what my doctor tells me. Then I came across this, it's called Chris Beat Cancer. He's online. And I started listening to his story. And he didn't do chemotherapy. He did change his way of eating. And when I put myself in that place, it just felt right. And I remember I called my husband. I said, guess what I'm going to do? I'm not going to do the chemotherapy, and I'm just going to change my diet. And I'm going to do with a Gershon diet, which is drinking a lot of juices. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so fine. I started doing that. But something in me was telling me that I needed more. And I needed to find a doctor. So I was like, okay, a naturopath. I'm going to look for a naturopath. And this is what I want to share with everyone. If there are people listening, hopefully there are some doctors listening. I don't know if Murali, you're a doctor. I'm not sure. But so anyway, I went ahead and Googled in El Paso, a naturopath. Nothing came out. So then I thought maybe in Las Cruces, which is 45 minutes away from here. I Googled that, and then Dr. Berg came out. And I started looking him up, trying to see what he was all about. And I came across some YouTube videos. He's an MD. He worked for the FDA. He actually directed some of the departments there. And he has helped a lot of people heal from cancer.
PhD biologist.
PhD biologist.
Researcher.
Researcher, like he said.
Books.
Written books. And he's only a few minutes away from me. So I'm all excited because I'm seeing, I mean, the videos that he put together is where he showed doctors. This was for a doctor like presentation. This wasn't for regular people. And there he was showing like x-rays of people with cancer. And then a few months later, no cancer, right? Or sometimes maybe a year or so, no cancer, with the protocol that he was giving them. And so I called and I said, can I get an appointment? They tell me, I'm so sorry, you're not going to get it. This was in May. We can't get you in until September. So then I thought, oh, it's not for me. So it's not, I was like thinking, Swami, it's not for me. Okay, I get it. So I'll continue with my diet. But I did tell him, I said, if there's a cancel, this was in April. No, it was in May. I would talk to them. In April was the surgery, April 30th. In May was when I was supposed to get the chemotherapy, and I wanted to get in to see Dr. Bergson before I had the chemo, or before I had to tell my doctor, my oncologist, that I wasn't going to do chemotherapy. So anyway, so they tell me, I'm so sorry, September. So I said, okay, if there's a cancellation, please let me know. I don't think we're going to have a cancellation. We hardly ever have cancellations, but we'll let you know. 3 days later, they called me and they said, we have a cancellation. Do you want to come in? I said, oh my God, yes, absolutely. No, this is what's so funny. I read tarot cards. I've read tarot cards since I was 16 years age. My tarot cards had said, the experts will come to you on Monday regarding my case. Well, when they gave me the appointment, it was on a Monday. So that was a confirmation, like, this is where you need to go. So I went to Dr. Berg. I was terrified just talking to him. I was shaking. I was so nervous. He was so patient. I found out later that he himself had cancer once. He's now like 31, 32 years cancer-free. And he put me on the protocol. I mean, we went through the whole process. Sitting there at the clinic, I get to hear people who do heal from cancer. Some don't, some do. But when they heal, I mean, I'm talking about like the cancer that were in lung cancer is no longer there. There's, what is it called? What Steve Jobs had? Pancreatic cancer that has stage 4 that has been healed with this protocol. He's tried to reach out to the medical field, and the medical field is not listening to him. Some of them have said that they're not in the job of healing people, that they're there, they make money, chemotherapy. So that's what I want to share, because I feel like, because I asked Swami, I said, Swami, why is this happening? He said, why did I get cancer? He said, because people will listen to you because you got cancer, because you got cancer. It's like you have to have it in order for them to listen to you. And it was part of my karma also, which he also gave me a vision. He's given me visions of my past life, and he showed me my vision of my past life before I got cancer, and why I felt like I needed to go through that in order to heal some of it. So Swami did say to me, he said, after this, you're going to be stronger. After this, that because my daughter wasn't talking to me because I had stayed with Swami, with Sai Baba, that she would come back and talk to me. My son, the same way, he wasn't talking to me because of Sai Baba, that he would also come back to me, and he did. And then even our relationship, that it was going to become more peaceful. I mean, the whole thing, it was just going to become better after getting cancer. So at some point, I remember hearing some of the people that healed from cancer say, oh, the best thing that ever happened to me was getting cancer. I was like, you're crazy. There's no way. Now I have to tell you, it was a blessing, because getting that woke me up. It made me see the importance of the path even more. And just the importance of taking care of the temple that houses the God self. And also how you think. You can't allow negative thinking to creep in. the negative emotions, yeah, if they happen, we're all human, we're in the world right now, and it's a very, Kali Yuga is pretty intense. So we are gonna react, but let it be minimal and let it be only for a short while, and get rid of that immediately and fill back with love. Center yourself. And that's what cancer has taught me. It's like, if people are upset, the reason my doctor asked me, he said, what happened to you during this time when the cancer happened? And I was wondering, no, I don't know. Think, oh yeah, my daughter stopped talking to me. Oh yeah, my son stopped talking to me. And I was feeling like I had not done my job right as a parent. Because I taught my children to be open, to allow people to worship however they want, to believe however they want. That was what I had taught my children. And here they're being extremely critical of how I'm praying. But then now I realize they were born to me because they needed to learn that lesson, because that lesson comes from other lifetimes for them. The intolerance comes from other lifetimes. So they had to have a mother like me in order to learn tolerance. But anyway, I mean, there are many things like we could talk in regards to these little topics, but mainly it's trying to get the word out for people who are going through cancer or diabetes, because that's another thing that the doctor helps with, or neuropathy, where you have no feeling in your nerves, or you have like intense arthritis where you can't move. People have walked in there with walkers, unable to move, they're bedridden, and after a few months with their protocol, they're able to walk and move. Their nerves get healed. Okay, so there's a lot of, I wish that somebody would, I don't know, we'll see. I leave it up to Swami, but if somebody's touched about that, if they could reach out, and then I can put you guys in contact with him, because he's aging. He is aging, and his son has learned the process. But there's only 2 who are doing it in the entire country.
If I may say something real quick. Yeah. Just one final thing I was going to say, and I don't know if Norma had anything else to add, but along the way that Norma was going through all of this, somewhere either, I think it was right before we were told that she had cancer, I was told that I was diabetic. And it was either right before or right after. I don't remember which of the two. But at that time, I weighed about 276 pounds. So it was bigger. And the doctor had told me that I needed to take all these meds. And I've had great docs. I've had not so great docs. This particular doctor was not on the good doctor list. And so I say that because he wasn't really willing to give me better information. He just tried to give me prescriptions. Long story short, I just changed my diet, very drastic change in diet, similar to Norma. She went to a raw foods type diet, and I went to a raw foods type diet, and I cut out all the sugar, and I just did a drastic change, and I found keto, and I did keto, and keto reversed my diabetes. So it's been 3 years almost. And the only reason I bring it up is because the doctor wrote a book on something called Syndrome X. So he calls it. And it was almost verbatim what I was going through, the diabetes, and how I came to it, and why I was getting these symptoms, and the lethargy and the neuropathy. And anyways, that which he does, some of the protocols that he does are alpha lipoic acid, and they're all natural. Vitamin C infusion therapy, and low dose naltrexone. So anyway,
and diet,
drastic change in diet.
Supplements.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool, because the diabetes went away.
Yeah,
and I lost weight.
And we got rid of all the processed food.
I think everything happens in our life. It's an event, but end of that one, what lesson we learn, that is the teaching actually. That's the essence of that particular event. We successfully come through those events, and it's God's grace or love for us. But basically what we learn from that one, that remains with us. And that lessons, in case we pass on to the rest of the people, that is a huge service to the community. And the way when I was really touched because you didn't know much about Swami and you could see Swami in your daughter's eyes when she was really ill, when there was not much of a hope. And all of a sudden, Swami comes and gives you confidence that, okay, I'm there to take care of you. And childlike innocence, you said, okay, since Swami appeared to me, tomorrow it has to be completely cured. Something like a lottery. Okay, I believed you, so it has to get a lottery immediately. So, but those instant results may not help us because in case it's a little longer, then you start understanding and you start dwelling in that particular concept. As Jesus was saying that it's a character. I don't believe him as God, but he is definitely something better than or bigger than a human being, normal human being who is doing enormous work. So with this, I mean, thanks a lot for joining us and sharing your experiences.
Sairam, and I just wanted to just close because I completely forgot the reason I brought up the coordinates and the latitude and all that. It made sense later. When I got sick, I realized that Swami was, because he knows how I get signs, he knows how I listen. So it was his way of saying to me, I know you're gonna get sick. When I got sick, I went with a gynecologist. The gynecologist thought it was my ovaries, and it wasn't. But during that period of time, everything was gynecological.
Gynecological.
And so when I was in the hospital bed, I remembered and I realized he's my doctor. Swami is my doctor. And so I had to literally say, Swami, because he would ask me, who's in charge? Who's in charge? And I would be like, oh, I don't know. You are? But he really wasn't in charge because I was the one that was like doing everything, trying to heal myself. And it wasn't until I said, you're in charge, Baba. You're in charge. You're my doctor. Nobody else is my doctor. You're my doctor. And then, they sent me Babudi. Region 10 was sending Babudi. And when I took it, I could feel it in my stomach. It was the lining of my stomach where the tumors were found. It was taken care of. But it wasn't until I said that.
You are in charge. Yeah.
You're in charge.
Beautiful. I mean, as a parting, there is a small story actually, which you reminded me. Dr. Upadhyaya, a lot of people know, he's a great service-oriented person. And one day he was talking to Swami and said, Swami, I conduct so many medical camps and we distribute medicines for the people. But when we have, 100 medicines, we have 1,000 people waiting. So how can we distribute this 100 to that many people? So what we have to do, we don't know what to do in those situations. Then Swami said, if you have a suite, that one suite you can distribute to 10 people, but one medicine you cannot distribute to 10 different patients because the quota has to be certain amount. In such a case, then he said, Swami, how can we deal with that kind of situation? So Swami said, take vibhuti and give it to them. He said, Swami, they don't believe that vibhuti will take care of it. Then Swami said, what is your profession as a doctor? He says, I'm an eye doctor. And what will happen in case a person with kidney issue will come to your ailment? He said, I'll refer to a kidney specialist. Vibhuti does the same thing. When you give vibhuti to that person, that means you are referring that patient to me. And actually, when you said that, Swami, you are in charge, that will take care of everything, because when you refer everything to him, he knows how that has to be done. I really like the way how you have put those things, and suddenly thought, okay, just wanted to share that piece with you.
Thank you.
Sairam, as Shyam was saying that you have definitely started our inspirational channel on a right note for the year 2021. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having us.